Hey guys, it's Wayne from Sling Pilot Academy. Welcome to our pilot training series. Today we'll be covering using the GPS on the GTN 650 and G3X.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is how to use the GPS system in this aircraft, kind of to not only supplement what we have with our VORs or our radio-based navigational instruments. We're going to show you that there's a couple other things you can do with GPS in addition to measuring distance and other fun stuff. So one of the things that the GPS enables us to do is there's all these different waypoints around. Let's see if I can pull up an IFR map that shows the waypoints. That would be nice. Right, so here's one. This one's called Fermi. This one's called Wilma. So hypothetically, air traffic control could ask us, can you proceed direct Wilma? And we would say, yes, we can, because we have a GPS. So what we would do to do that is we would pull up our flight plan. So there's a couple different ways to do that, but Will's going to hit the home button, then he'll hit flight plan. And as you can see, we have add waypoint. So all he has to do is hit add waypoint, and then he's going to go ahead and type in Wilma, which is Whiskey, India, Lima, Mike Alpha. And as you can see, the GPS actually predicts it for you. And we can just press Wilma and then hit the direct button and hit activate. And then as you can see, we're actually still looking at the VOR course here. So we're going to switch this over to the GPS on the HSI. So what you need to do is, go ahead and hit the default nav function from the main menu. We're going to hit the CDI button. It's going to change the CDI to display our GPS course instead of our VOR nav course. So right now it's showing that we need to make a right turn to go towards that waypoint, Wilma. As you can see, it shows our distance, 7.8 nautical miles, and it also shows us along the top of the G3X because these systems are talking to each other. The GPS really opens up a whole new world of possibilities based off of, we can make the GPS pretend to be a VOR, we can tell it just to go straight direct to a location. We can really do a whole lot of stuff with the GPS. It also enables timing. It's telling us we'll be there in 4 minutes. The GPS is really a lifesaver, and there's not a whole lot of ways to confuse things, whereas the VOR nav or nav aid based navigation, there's a lot of ways to kind of get confused. The GPS is a really good way to kind of have a secondary navigational source if you're tracking VORs or on a flight plan. Even if you don't plan to fly the GPS to those locations on your flight plan, it's a really good way to kind of gauge your situational awareness and make sure you understand just exactly where you are and how long it's going to take to get to your next waypoint if you're on a VFR flight plan. All right, well, say that we wanted to go to this waypoint, this intersection, Wilma, and we wanted to pretend like it was actually a VOR. And we wanted to go to Wilma, and we wanted to fly outbound on the 180 radial from Wilma. There is no 180 radial, but we can do that. We can have the GPS simulated. So all we have to do is hit OBS mode on the GTN 650, which enables us to type in a radial, and you can go ahead and type the OBS on the G3X, type in the 180 radial, and it's now going to show as if it was a 180 radial, and we can see that on the map here. So if Will was going to intercept that radial out of Wilma, you can go ahead and make a left turn to maybe a 220 heading. Doesn't have to be specific, but we're going to set up a nice intercept angle, and we're going to fly the 180 radial southbound from Wilma. This is demonstrating the GPS's capability to what they call OBS mode. OBS stands for Omni Bearing Selector, and it's kind of a throwback from when VORs were traditional, and anytime you wanted to change the VOR course, you had to spin the OBS knob. All right, so we just had to dodge some traffic out here in the practice area, but now we're set up back on a nice intercept angle. It's a 230 heading, which is going to bring us in line with our outbound course, OBS mode, from the Wilma intersection. We can see Wilma's there. The system has drawn a 180 radial outbound from Wilma, and we're flying to intercept it. As you can see, this needle is starting to move in just like it did with the VOR, so it's showing us kind of how far deflected from the course we are. All right, so as you can see, we're approaching our intended 180 radial outbound from Wilma on OBS mode. The needle is coming in, and Will's going to start to make a left turn to intercept this course. This is a really cool feature because it allows the GPS to basically act as a VOR. So if you're in an aircraft that doesn't have a VOR, you can set up your GPS to kind of mimic that, and you're still able to do a lot of the same procedures that require a VOR. One of the other cool things we can use the GPS for, a lot of times when you're flying into Long Beach Airport, they'll say, proceed direct to the Queen Mary and then inbound. And if you're not from this area, you might have no idea what the Queen Mary is. It's a big cruise ship from the 1930s, and you don't know where it's parked in the biggest port complex in the country. It could be anywhere. But if we look on the map, there's this interesting little alphanumeric, or I guess it's just alpha identifier underneath the Queen Mary, which is right here on the map. But if you didn't know where to look, you might not know. So we found the Queen Mary, and we see it says VPL-QM. We can actually enter that into the GPS and have the GPS tell us exactly how to fly direct to the Queen Mary. So he's gonna hit back, flight plan, he's gonna add waypoint, and he can just type that right in there, VPL, Victor Papa Lima, Quebec Mike. He'll hit that, and then he can go ahead and touch the VPL-QM, hit the direct button, which is an actual key, activate, and now the GPS is gonna tell him which way to fly direct to the Queen Mary. Quite a nice feature. You'll notice on the VFR sectional, a lot of these more prominent visual waypoints actually have GPS-based identifiers built in. So stuff that we were talking about on the way into John Wayne. Let's see, where's Miles Square Park? Right here, VPL MS. If you want to go to Dodger Stadium, we're going up to Dodger Stadium up here, and we see Dodger Stadium, VPL DS. So they're all over the map. You'll start noticing them if you pay attention and start reading and diving into that sectional chart. It's an amazing resource, a lot going on in there. So as you can see, Will's made this turn, which is represented on the G3X screen there, and we're now direct to the Queen Mary. We've got a distance from it, 7.8 nautical miles. We've got an estimated time en route. We're showed our ground speed because of the GPS. And again, a lot of this same data is also represented on the G3X Touch screen as well. Another interesting feature for the G3X Touch versus the GTN 650 here is that the G3X Touch actually has its own GPS, but it's not as accurate as this GPS in here. So as you can see, we're pulling in GPS data from an external source. In this case, it's the GTN 650. If we ever had an issue with this, or for some reason it wasn't working properly, we could just flip this right over here, and it now has an internal GPS. Not quite as accurate, but for our purposes, it's gonna get us where we need to be. And just if we wanna switch it back, we'll go back, we'll touch the HSI, and we'll go back to external. Just like that, and now we're pulling in the data again from the GTN 650. So yet another use, so the myriad uses of the GPS, right? Oftentimes on an approach or on a straight-in VFR day for a field, the tower is going to ask you, maybe if the tower doesn't have radar, they might ask you to report a 3-mile final or something. So an easy way to do that is just hit the nearest button on the GPS. We'll hit airport because we want to know the nearest airport. We got Torrance here, and it already shows us some information, but we can hit that and hit the direct button right here, and then hit activate. And it's gonna add that to our flight plan. It's gonna get us a distance to the field. So right now we're showing 3.4, right? So if they asked us to report a 3-mile final, we now know just exactly when we're 3 miles from the field, and we can report it.